Hey, it's Renee Keel, host of TradeIQ and Chief Operating Officer at BrokerBin, the leading B2B exchange for IT professionals, resellers, and wholesalers. I'm thrilled to introduce TradeIQ to you, the podcast that shares the economic stories of IT hardware resale. Each episode, I interview an industry leader who embodies what it takes to realize success in the ever-changing and highly competitive secondary IT market. What does it truly mean to be an ITAD provider? How do companies mitigate supply chain risks? How can your business thrive amidst changing market conditions that eat away at profit margins? Explore these topics and more on TradeIQ from BrokerBin.com. And while I have your attention, I want to personally invite you to attend a BrokerBin Roadshow. This biannual event brings together ITAD and ITAM providers, wholesalers, resellers, and service professionals all under one roof for 2.5 days of high-value networking. Where else can you make a true, authentic connection with other IT professionals in our industry? Join us in Europe in the spring and in the US in the fall. Learn more and register at BrokerBinRoadshow.com. Dave Manning is the Senior Product Remarketing Manager at Iron Mountain. He started his third career in the IT secondary market over 25 years ago, and he's loving every minute of it. Over the years, Dave has excelled in relationship building, proving that it's not so much what you know, but who you know that makes the difference in this business. As a sales expert, Dave is reinvigorated by helping others. He's continually focused on strengthening his relationships with clients, vendors, competitors, and coworkers to bring people together to achieve great outcomes. On this episode of TradeIQ, Dave and I chat about the importance of relationship building in the B2B resale market and how valuable relationships are for opening new doors and moving deals forward. If you want to earn a spot at a client's table and keep that spot, then you'll need to invest time and energy in building relationships. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Renee. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. It's Wednesday. Sun's up. Feels good.
Wednesday. Yep. The sun's out. Exactly. Yep. Makes a big difference when the sun is shining. That's for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like this was kind of a long time coming, you and I doing this TradeIQ.
I know we've talked about it in the past, obviously the last couple meetings, but I think I really appreciate the invitation. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. You have a lot to share with us and with the industry. And so we're just really grateful for you to take the time to do this. So are you ready? Should we just jump in and get started?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So Dave, tell us, when you look back on your career, what do you recall as your first big success story?
You know, this is one of the stories that I actually love about it, because everyone in this business kind of has an origin story, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad.
Yeah.
And when I got into this industry, it was after a pretty low point in my life. I had my own business, things hadn't gone well. I was looking for a desk to work. And a good friend of mine at the time, somebody had actually done business with, was Joe Turco, who used to own Optimum Data. And Joe said, "I'll give you a desk." And so sat down. I knew the networking business. I'd been involved with it for a few years, but it wasn't what I'd been doing. And first couple months were pretty slow. And I was questioning what was I doing? Was this the right call? Should I just go back into my old industry? Should I do something different? But Joe had put a sales contest out there, and he was trying to grow the business early on in the year. I started January 1, so he said if anyone can hit a certain number on a commission scale or on a revenue scale or a margin scale before a certain date, he'd give us a trip. I'm like, okay, last year was bad, so I'll go for this trip. But I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, it was like it felt like an insurmountable number in terms of margin. And so I want to say the number then was like $40,000 in margin in 4 months, which to me now isn't that much. But this was starting a new company. It was a small company, and I think the first month I did $2,000 in margin. The second month I did $1,500 in margin. It's like things were not looking good. And I kind of put it out the back burner because I didn't really think I was going to make it.
Okay.
One of the skill sets I brought to that environment was, in any small business, people spend time on the phone. And this was almost 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. So the phone was the way we communicated. So if other people were on the phone, I would be the fastest person to pick up the next call. And in doing so, I got to meet a lot of people in the industry, some who are still in the industry, people that I've kind of grown up with in the industry. And I just started taking deals down and kept doing it. And by the April 15th deadline, I'd made the number.
Oh my
And
gosh,
that
that's
was
so
my
exciting.
success moment, because I thought, I understand the product. I understand the product. I understand the process, but I doubted my ability. And for me, that was like, I can do this. And I can
Yes.
do it really well. And the key was I was good on the phone.
Yeah.
How's it going? No problem. We'll take care of you. Send the PO. We'll get it out the door. And it only takes a few of those successful calls with some players, like I said, that are still in the business. Paul
Yeah.
Hickson from World Data, um, Joe Curletti, who at the time was at Network Hardware. He has his own place now. I mean, these are guys that are still in the business, and they'd call
Right.
in looking for Joe or Jim Turco. They'd be on the phone. It's like, well, I'll help you.
Oh,
So that
yeah.
was a success moment for me, and one I use because it shows you that you still have to work and you still have to get
Yeah.
lucky. But for me, that's how I was successful.
Yeah. That's great. I love that story. So where was the trip?
The trip was actually to Italy. My
Oh
wife and I
my,
took 14 days to Italy, and it was fantastic. Like I said, this was
wow.
pre-kids, but not by much. So it was a good time we went when we did.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was great. Like I
14
said, the
days?
previous couple of years have been bad, so it was good to get
Wow.
away.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. And just out of curiosity, what was the industry you were in previous?
Well, I'd always been involved in technology. So
Okay.
I'd been
Okay.
working in the printing and pre-press industry, doing training
Okay.
and sales. I ran my own company, which at the time was doing computer upgrades. So
Okay.
kind of what we do now,
Sure.
servicing the used market, providing new components and things like that, but at a different level than
Yeah.
like enterprise. So
Sure. Got it. Got it. Got it. So, and you kind of just explained your journey in getting started, but from then until now, what has surprised you on that journey from winning that trip till today?
yeah,
What was your biggest surprise?
I think the biggest surprise is how I've changed during that time.
Okay.
When and I tell people this all the time. This part of my career, this is my third career. I've done
Okay.
different things over time, and when I got into this, I never would have told anyone I was a classic sales rep.
Okay.
I'm good with product knowledge. I'm good with understanding customer needs, but I'm not necessarily going to be the guy knocking on 200 doors a day.
Got it.
I'm developing solutions for people, and over time, I think that's where I've always gravitated. Tell me, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, what's your pain? What bothers you? How can I fix it? And the surprise was that I actually got better at my job, and I
Oh,
got better at understanding what my job really was. And it's great to sell stuff, but at the end of the day, it's really nice to I help somebody. I fixed a problem.
yes. Yes.
Um, Most of the guys and most of the people, make it gender neutral here, that I've worked with, we kind of fall into, there's probably two or three camps. We all love that serotonin hit of getting a deal done, no
Yeah.
question. But at the same time, sometimes you step back and go, yeah, that was, I did pretty well. I mean, and there have been setbacks, right? I mean, global financial crisis in 2008 was brutal to many people in the industry, personally and professionally. Um, I wondered if I'd ever get out of a hole that I got myself dug into, and I did. I mean, just work harder, try to make it happen. But it all just keeps rolling to a point where you realize, yeah, I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It took
Yeah.
20
Well,
years, but I figured it out.
yeah, that's great. And it definitely helps develop like a sense of bigger purpose, right?
It
Like,
definitely can. I think, you know, at the end of the day, and I've had a number of people tell me this, at the end of the day, we're not heart surgeons.
right.
We're
Yeah.
not peacekeepers. We're just, we're selling IT equipment.
Yeah.
But you can gain a lot of qualitative benefits from doing that. Great relationships with people, great
Hmm.
relationships with clients, with competitors, with vendors, and just come away from it seeing somebody at a roadshow or any other business event. We're like, that was good. That was it felt good,
Yes.
and it kind of gets certain people reinvigorated, myself included, to see people again.
Yeah. And really, all of those, you know, doctors and everyone, they all need technology, right? So in
Right.
some way, we're all we're helping.
Exactly.
Oh goodness. Well, you kind of referenced this, but my next question was actually going to be, what do you feel was your biggest setback? Do you feel like it was that 2008 timeframe, or
Oh
do
yeah.
you think
I
there
mean,
was something
I
else?
think it hit everybody hard because
Yeah.
you know, I was working with a very particular niche at that time, and I doubled down on it. I was like, we're going to make money on this. This is going to be fantastic. And, a lot of business owners at the time were worried about receivables, was worried about cash flow, and it's like, dump it. Like, dump it, dump it. And, if you're a commission sales rep, and I've been a commission sales rep most of my career,
Yeah.
um, every month you start at zero and you can
Yeah.
live with that. But you don't want to start like negative 200,000.
Mhm.
And that happened. And it has happened to a lot of people. We have to claw your way back. Some people are able to make it, some are not. It took me a few months, but
Mhm.
that just said, okay, well, we're going to learn from this. And ultimately that was an immediate drop, and then it bounced back up. But we've seen similar things like with COVID. I mean, the market staggered and then rebounded dramatically, especially for our industry. People needed IT equipment; they needed it at
Yes.
home. Uh,
Mhm.
I think that's more of a personal slash professional setback. But at any given time, I didn't look at myself in the mirror and say, "I can't do this anymore." It was always like, "This is my job. We'll figure it out, or we'll
Yeah.
find something that makes sense."
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And so then that's really, the lesson that you would take away from it, not to put words into your mouth, right? But like that's what you had to learn through that is that, hey, we just got to keep going. We just got to keep.
You have to, and
Yep.
it's kind of it's not fair in a lot of respects, because I've worked with people who have been fantastic at what they do and didn't
Mm-hmm.
get breaks. I got some good breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody should get a break now and again, but
Yes.
I can think of one coworker in particular, great with clients, but he could never land the deal that was going to keep him in the industry. And he's moved on. That was probably 15 years ago now.
Okay.
Successful is what he's doing, but sometimes part of that setback journey is discovering, like, I'm not supposed to be here.
Right.
I'm supposed to do something else. And
Yeah.
there are plenty of people who will stick with something because that's what they do. And
Mm-hmm.
the question is, who's better off there? It's hard. It's
Right.
really hard to say.
Yeah, I know. Those are hard things to navigate for sure. For sure. Well, let's talk about Iron Mountain in today's market.
Yes.
So how is the company evolving to adapt to these fun and exciting current market conditions?
Well, it's interesting because Iron Mountain as a company, and I'm certainly not speaking as a representative, but an employee,
Yeah.
we've been around for 80 years.
Yeah.
Our growth strategy has always been the same. We grow by acquiring, and
Hmm.
we diversify where we see the need for it. I mean, starting from, a regional player in storage, uh, that turned into paper storage, that turned into document storage, that turned into, we have a fine art division now that does logistics for museums.
Wow.
We have, music masters and film negatives from most of the major studios out there. We quite a bit of stuff for the federal government, and we're
Wow.
global. And Iron Mountain, looking at themselves as an entity, how do they grow? That's why we're in this business. I came, like many of the people I work with, through acquisition. I worked for a
Mhm.
company called IT Renew that was pretty
Yep.
had a pretty high profile in the IT asset distribution or IT asset destruction company, um,
Mhm.
uh, and to the industry. Sorry, and they came to us because, hey, we want to get in this business too. We have a whole data center division that we've built from nothing. So we're involved in high tech, and we're involved with, going from physical security of documents to data security writ large. Um, that that was our evolution as Iron Mountain. But even since I've been here, we've looked at ways that we need to expand our reach, supporting circularity, supporting better forms of remarketing, getting better values for our clients. I mean, it's constant. You
Yeah.
can't stay static
No.
in this industry. I mean, you can, and
Mm-hmm.
if you got great customers and you have a very limited product set, maybe they'll keep coming to you. But the real truth in this industry is that everything's constantly changing, and that's the only thing you can rely on.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. And so where do you see our industry headed in the next, 5 to 10 years where
Um,
there's all this change?
this is the crystal ball, right? That I think we
I
all.
know. I've been asking a lot of
I
members
know. It's
this
like, what do you
question
think? Well,
lately.
I don't know. I think first and foremost, consolidation.
Yeah.
And the one of the first industries I worked in was the printing industry, and we had a lot of very large retail customers that we did advertising for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remember way back when you opened the Sunday paper and half of it was ads for like Kmart or
Yeah.
Target or whomever, that was a huge industry at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that industry, like so many, was not racked, but it was changed by
Yes.
outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about consolidation in our current industry, what that really means is we're taking over something that somebody else internally is doing, but we're also taking over competitors. And like outsourcing, it's cyclical, meaning, hey, we're going to outsource this to these guys. Oh, we're going to bring it back in. Now we're going to do this. And when you do consolidate and bring larger groups of sales reps and clients together to build a bigger company, invariably someone says, I'm outsourcing myself. I can do this my own way.
Yeah.
So I would expect to see a lot of consolidation in the next several years, but I'll also start to see more companies start because of it. It's a double-edged sword. We
Yeah.
want more, we want more business. Everyone does.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a person who may be unhappy with how the business is going or think, hey, I've got the personality or the drive to do this myself. And
Yeah.
that's been literally the history of this business since the
Yeah.
late 70s.
Yeah.
A
That's
company
great.
starts, a guy leaves, starts a competitor. Another guy leaves, and we can talk about the family trees in
I
Minneapolis
know.
or Atlanta or in Santa
I
Barbara.
know. I know.
Uh, but it's true.
It's
There
true.
will be a focus as part of that consolidation, though, on services, what
Mhm.
you can provide your client,
Yes.
because the
Yeah.
goal here for all of us has to be how do we strengthen that relationship?
Yeah.
And that's going to help people weather current market conditions and
Hmm.
really determine if you're the one being acquired or the one acquiring.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been having member feedback calls and talking a lot about um, diversification and adding services, but then also how important that relationship is,
It is, and then
It's
and
crucial.
there is a move. I think people think, oh well, it's not just relationship because here's what we have to offer, and I can speak from that from a company who has a lot to offer.
Uh-huh.
Well, relationships open doors,
Yes.
and relationships keep things moving. And some of the best reps I've seen in our company, not just within our asset lifecycle management division, but the entire company, are
Hmm.
just laser focused on that
Yes.
relationship with the client, and their clients appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that's what gets you to the table, and that's what keeps you at the table.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
we can be the best company there is, but if someone's not happy with the person who's talking to them every day, they'll figure a way to change it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. You mentioned a little bit about competition, or you mentioned competition here. And so how much do you think about competition, and what do you feel like makes Iron Mountain sustainable and resilient amongst the competition?
I think a lot of that's driven by the relationship.
Yep, we just
In our particular workspace, we're dealing with companies nearly as large as us and companies that may have 5 people in them.
yeah.
So how we compete is a little bit interesting because sometimes we're not the most nimble company, but we
Mhm.
have the best relationship. So I think about competition all the time, and I view it a little bit differently because I focus both on how do we acquire this product, but how do we sell and remarket the product as well. So relationships matter, and then ultimately it becomes, how close are we to the final destination of the product? If I am bringing in equipment from a Fortune 500 company directly and I'm selling back to a Fortune 500 company, I'm going to win. There's no
Yeah.
way I can't win. If
Yeah.
I am buying from someone who's buying from someone who's buying from someone, and then conversely selling, it's very difficult for middlemen, I think, to make a living in this industry.
Yeah.
So I think about competition. I question, like, if I come up with a valuation, I'm say, hey, we didn't win. I'm like, why didn't we win? What
Mhm.
what was it a quantitative exercise? Is my price not right? Is it a relationship thing? Is it, the competitor offers something else or maybe offered a higher number based on a better end user scenario? Maybe.
Mhm.
Um, in the commodity space that we exist in, there are no crazy high bids and crazy low bids. Everybody's about the same. So then you
Mhm.
have to look at what differentiates you.
Yeah.
How do you get your foot in the door? Or how do you make that sale happen?
Yeah.
And
And
we're
again,
always
yeah,
there.
that comes back to the relationship
Exactly.
and
Yep.
offering additional services, and
Yeah.
which again, that kind of comes back to the relationship too. Hey, we can do that for you,
Right.
as a
And
matter of
and
fact.
and even in like the Fortune 500 space, if I was talking to someone and we had a conversation and it turned into like, well, we can do this there for you, this for you, and this for you. But I noticed on LinkedIn that you are a fan of, the Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah.
My daughter went there. Let's have that conversation. And that may be the only
Yeah.
thing that gets me over the line.
Yeah.
It's crazy like that, but that's
Yeah.
that's how it works.
Yeah, that is how it works. It's absolutely how it works.
Yeah.
In your opinion, Dave, what is the industry doing right with respect to reuse and recycling? And what do you think we need to change to ramp up those efforts?
Well, I think, it's a primary focus of ours, first and foremost. I mean, we
Yeah.
talked about Iron Mountain as being a document and data security company. We shred a lot of product. We recycle a lot of product as much as we store and we remarket it. Um, Anything that would come out of one of our facilities that would end up on like a news report in another country is going to be problematic for us or any client. And so the relationships we have with our clients, it's like we're promising you that we're going to do the right thing for this. If it's shredding, if it's recycling, we want to make sure we're doing the best we can for our client. But we're not yet to the ability of being like the one-stop shop where product comes in and a bar of gold comes out. It's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. There's still lots of layers to this, but it's been our primary focus globally for years because we know that in order for us to be successful, we have to pitch the idea of the circular economy to our clients and to ourselves. There's got to be value in this product that comes in. We're going to give it a second life. And oh, by the way, Mr. Customer, here's your check. This
Yeah.
also should encourage you. Where
Yeah.
things get different or difficult, I think, in the future are going to be how certain companies look at this, how certain companies are going to say, hey, we don't want this anymore. And everyone wants to believe that the PC they recycle or the plastic they put out the curb on garbage day is going in the right place. And it probably does. We hope it does. But we also know that there are plenty of people that are willing to cut corners the farther you go downstream. And that's always concerning too. But it's
Yeah.
definitely our focus. And I like to see other members, in BrokerBin and outside of BrokerBin talking about circular economy, talking about appropriate recycling, because it
Yeah.
establishes a level playing field. If we're
Yes.
all agreeing to do something the right way, then we should be fairly similar in how we go to market.
Yes. Yeah. And, here's my little plug. It's just kind of the right thing to do for the
It is the right thing
for
to
the
do.
world.
And, it, it wasn't until I joined the company prior to this one that I really understood the volume.
Yeah.
You work in some of these areas and you realize, well, yeah, we see some good stuff. We sell a decent amount of gear, and it's the sheer amount of IT equipment that is being taken out every day. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't even quantify it.
I
And
know.
we try to find uses for everything we can, and some things just go back to be melted down and rebuilt.
Yeah.
And if you go into a data center, you see that great network rack, and you think someone can reuse this. They might not,
Yeah, I
but
know.
it'll be broken down and still be turned into something else. It'd be great if that just went out the door and back into production someplace else. But
Yeah.
then there's logistics costs, and then you're
Yeah.
looking at fuel costs, and then wait a minute, are we really doing the right thing for the environment if we're
Yeah.
transferring all this stuff?
True.
We think about that all the day and all the time, and our clients do too. Because if we're going to spend more money and spend more time to move something to make it right, is there a better way to do it?
Is
And
there
we're
a better way?
constantly looking at that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not so black and white,
It
obviously.
never is.
Obviously,
But you try. You do your best.
you try, you do your best. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So what motivates you to keep doing what you're doing?
I have a 14-year-old. That's probably the biggest motivation. I mean, I think I love the business. I love the ebb and flow of it. I like what I do. And I think that oftentimes you think about, oh, retirement, whenever that will happen, I'll just do whatever I want to do. And that's what retirement is.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, this motivates me too. I like having conversations with clients, with peers, with, industry people,
Yeah.
because that's exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
if it was just a job, I would do any job. But for
Yeah.
me, the thing that brings me back in this chair every day is like, okay, what are we going to do today? What's
Yeah.
going to happen today? What challenges do I face? Is it going to be a long day? Is it going to be an exciting day? Is something going to come out of left field? I don't know. but
Yeah.
it's never a dull moment. So
No,
that's a plus.
it certainly is not.
Yes.
I will tell you, my dad reminds me regularly that you think you think you want to get to retirement and you think you want to, but sometimes that's not that's sometimes you just don't know what to do with yourself then anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
just keep your he tells me all the time he would switch positions with me even when I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just been chaotic and nuts and all this stuff is going on, and he's just like, thank God for that, Renee.
Yeah.
So anyway, how would you describe your leadership style, Dave?
It's funny because I thought about that one. Obviously, I've seen the questions.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but I thought about that one because I, for a long time, was just a lone wolf. I did what I needed to do, didn't really need to be managed in a lot of respects, although I had great management coming up through all the years. But I've been empowered to be a sales rep.
Hmm.
And the longer you're in this business, oftentimes you find yourself managing people and processes that you never expected to manage. The first go round was probably at least 10 years ago, maybe longer. And it didn't go well because I was a player coach. Like,
Yeah.
I'm doing this, well, you did this wrong, you need to fix this. And it wasn't a great, it just didn't work out for a number of us. I mean, I did my best, but the focus really was on me playing, not coaching.
Yeah.
Um, I've been in similar situations like that in the last several years, but I've also realized that part about being a player coach is you got to focus on the coaching. You're not just going to say, "Hey, I'm going to lead the team," but rather, "Okay, this is what I think we need to do. Let's look at it this way." And I've had some good friends that I've worked for and that have worked for me, but where I have felt I've done the best is simply by being the guy that people can yell at and listen to. Because management is about, in my opinion, what a manager can do for an employee. Not so much. I mean, everyone has to pull their weight. Everyone has to
Yeah.
look, this is your
Yeah.
quota, you got to do this. What are you doing? But if I had a problem, I would take it to my manager. Like, listen, I'm managing up. And
Hmm.
it's not a bad thing to be managed from below. It's like, I
Right.
have a problem with this, this, and this. And sometimes just listening to someone
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
no, I get it. Here's what we're going to do to make it right, but I really need this. I mean, managing, I'm not gonna say it's exactly like parenting, but it kind of is. You're trying to develop someone into the best person they can be, and hopefully they understand that that's what you're doing.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I would say that my sales skills have brought nothing to my management skills because I'm
Okay.
going to sell. But
Yeah.
being a parent, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
wait a minute, how you deal with these situations.
Hmm.
Sometimes they don't want an answer. Sometimes they want you to listen.
Listen. Yeah.
And that's I've learned that probably the hard way a couple
Yeah.
times. Like, yeah, I can fix it. Of course I can fix it, but
Mhm.
just listen,
Yeah. Oh
Someone's,
my gosh. I think
someone
we've all
calls from
learned that the
college.
hard
Yeah.
way.
Someone calls in from college and they're melting down, right? I'm like, well, just do this, this, and this. I don't want you to tell me what to do. I'm like, okay, you're right.
I know.
Vent. Then we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if it's it's like, okay, listen, we're going to break down your problem, then we're going to build you back up.
Yeah.
That's management for me.
Yeah. 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 It's hard. I remember my son, who's now his first year in college, but he one time said to me, I'm going to tell you something and I don't want you to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I don't want you to give me an answer, Mom. I just want to tell you this. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's hard.
It is. It is hard because we're pre-programmed to feel like, oh, well, I'm the parent or I'll help you. I'll help you. I'll help you. I'm like, nope, just get it off your chest.
Yeah.
Then we'll figure it out. Because
Yeah.
if it's a child or a family member or a coworker or even one of my own managers comes at me and they're angry about something, it's
Yeah.
probably not me.
Right.
It
Right.
could be, but it probably isn't. It's probably something else, and you just like work through it.
Yeah.
And there's been plenty of times in my life where if someone yells at me, I'm yelling right back, and
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
I've tempered that down because I just can't
Yeah.
be that guy. So
Yeah.
or try not to be.
Wisdom. You're gaining wisdom, Dave.
Apparently, it just happened. I don't know how.
Oh, goodness. And so, speaking of that, what have you learned from other generations, either older or younger? I mean, you're talking about managing up, managing down, but what have you learned that's made an impact on your career?
I think I've worked with a lot of people who have been younger than me because I'm not as young as I used to be,
None of
and
us are.
it is hard. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we think we do it this way, and my gut reaction is always saying, we've done it before. It's not worth trying. And then you have to step back from that. You know what? Maybe it is worth trying. go ahead, knock yourself out. Because if you succeed, great. If you fail, okay, now you've learned something. So I have learned to become open to ideas that I normally would have said, that's never going to work. Um, what I also have learned now is like, I have a great mentor here at Iron Mountain. His name's Bob Truelove. And Bob has been in the ITAD industry basically since the beginning. Um, he knows the clients, he knows the process, he's great on the phone, he's great in a meeting. He understands a lot about how this market works while being a great guy. And Bob probably won't see this because Bob's talking to all these, big companies. That's what Bob does. But he's a few years older than I am, and he's had a great career. He's learned a ton. And learning from someone like that helps me think about when I'm there, how am I
Yeah.
going to be? What should
Right.
I be doing?
Hmm.
And, in this industry, we go, 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 so many of us came up at about the same time and about the same age, but there's a ton of people below us now. Who are they
Yeah.
learning from? How are they learning? Are they looking at us saying, should I do it that way?
Hmm.
Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But
Yeah.
it is good to see both perspectives
It
because
is.
the adage is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And sometimes I believe that. But I also think, you know what? Maybe there are new tricks.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
hurt to look or listen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I would think I'm learning a bit about this right now with much younger generation than me coming up and really wanting to engage in a lot of technology and in my opinion at the expense of relationship.
yes,
And so, but what I feel like what I'm learning is that we have to give a little both ways. Like, hey, we'll give you guys this, and then but then you've got to learn too that we've got something to offer as well. You know what I mean? Like it's a
right.
middle ground. Like we've got to learn to advance with the technology and find other ways to connect. But that being said, you use those ways to actually connect. That's not the only
That's the
thing
key.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I got started, the first person in the office went to the fax machine and grabbed all the faxes. Oh God,
Yeah.
look at all this great stuff. Then we started instant messaging people. Then we're calling people. Then we're texting them. Then we're doing all this other crazy stuff. It's always changed, but the
Yep.
core has been the same. How are we
Yep.
getting the information? How do we react to the information?
Yeah.
Um, and if you want to use Chat GPT to write your response, go ahead. If it makes
Right.
you sound better, go ahead.
Right.
Um,
Right.
if it helps you build a better client presentation, go ahead. That's a
Yeah.
great tool. Use it.
Right. Right.
It may not be the best for me,
Right.
but it doesn't mean I wouldn't say, "Oh yeah, I'll just run this through and see what happens." It sounds like
Right.
I would say, "Okay, copy and paste, go."
Right. 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 Exactly. And it's just you just don't want to use those things in lieu of
Right.
um
Can't be a
the
crutch.
actual
Well, it
yeah.
is a crutch in the sense it's helping you, but it shouldn't be the
Right.
only thing you grab. So,
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's learning. I think we have to just keep learning.
well, that's it too, right? I mean, part of this process, part of this development is that we're not doing the same thing we always have done.
Right.
If that was the case, I mean, I had a good friend in the business. I think he's still in the business. He may not be, but he would be the guy that would call me about something, and I give him some speeds and feeds about a Cisco product, and he goes,
Okay.
"Well, yeah, you were faster than Google, Dave. I appreciate it," and I get a deal done. And then one year he called me. He goes, "Do you remember some product that we used to talk about back in the day?" And I said, "No, I've actually removed that information from my head because I no longer need it."
Right.
And I learned that as my job changed, I didn't have to keep that.
Yeah.
And it was also kind of like, I forgot about that. But then you think, oh, well, there's more information that came in. I'm not getting dumber. I'm just moving
Right.
information in and out. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's good to know that you can develop and you can
Right.
change both with the market, what your job is, and, go to that next level.
Yeah. For sure. What are you curious about that has nothing to do with your job?
I love technology. I'm a 80s kid. I was involved with tech at a very early age. I still play with uh, networking stuff at home, computer stuff at home. I build PCs.
Fun.
I get dragged. My wife obviously is long suffering, but also realized that sometimes I'll just go off on these tangents. Like,
Yeah.
why did you do this? I'm like, well, I wanted to learn about it. So, maybe it's like low voltage wiring for like wiring the kitchen up, or maybe it's, you know, it varies. But
Yeah.
I am a constant learner. I want to know
That's
about
great.
how things work. I love, reading. I love music. I love just like, if it's my background is not in technology from my university days. I have a degree in English and a degree in history.
Okay.
So I'm like, what have you been doing? Well, I spent the last hour and a half on Wikipedia looking at like, French royal dynasties in the 8th century. Why would you do that?
Okay.
No idea.
No.
It's like let's just read. So it's representative of a bigger like just inquisitiveness. How does
Yeah,
this work? How can I find out about this? And that got me into the business first and foremost,
sure.
but also keeps me interested in other things outside the business too.
Yeah, that's great. And do you get into all of the things that your kids are into? So like your 12-year-old.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he is in like a quiz bowl competition. He's very interested in mathematics. I'm probably one of only a few people in the world who have 2 liberal arts degrees, but also 3 semesters of college calculus because I was going to be a chemist. So
Wow.
I mean, I'm following him. It's like, tell me what you're working on. My other son, power lifter, was an athlete. He's into sports. I mean, I'm constantly like, okay, what's going on? What are you talking about? I have one daughter who loves Broadway, so I hear more
Oh,
about Broadway than I probably ever wanted to do.
so
But
fun.
it's being there for them and just like, okay, bounce your stuff off me. I when they were younger, it was harder to be involved
Yeah.
because work was different. Then they were
Mhm.
young. Now they're getting older and they have their own personalities. It's more like,
Yeah.
okay, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that I'm an early riser. My youngest is an early riser. We've got half an hour where we just talk for anybody who shows up.
Oh,
What are you
that's so
working on today? What are you doing? And then my other son doesn't go to bed early. So at around 10 o'clock, he's doing, hey, did you hear about this sports trade? Or what do you think about this? And it's good. So
Yeah, that's great.
it keeps me engaged.
Yeah, that's great. So I said 12, but your youngest is 14
Youngest
actually.
is 14, and then my second son, Sean, is 16, and I have twin girls who are going to be 23 in May. So big
Amazing.
household.
Yeah. So where are the girls at?
Both at home.
Oh, great. Well,
Well,
that's good.
it is good. One will be finished with university this in May. The other one graduated last year, was working an internship, is now at another internship, is looking for a good exit route out of the Omaha area, looking for
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
outside, which
Yeah.
is great. So
Yeah.
it's been a full house for the last year, and that's fine because it
Yeah.
won't be for long. It'll be things.
No. Yeah, I know. That's great. That's great. I love it. Road shows.
Road shows.
So you guys our Iron Mountain is a sponsor. We very much appreciate that. We very much appreciate your support and your attendance for sure. Tell us a bit about how you have benefited from the road shows.
You know, it's a great dovetail into the roadshow element because it's very hard, in my opinion, to trust someone without meeting them. And yeah, here's your PO. Yeah, we're going to do business with you, whatever. But the relationships I've made in this industry have really been based on the people I've met.
Yeah.
People saying, "Hey, I could really work out with this," or "What do you think about this?" People you connect to, it's easy to work with, or they're easy to work with. I fully and 100% on board with like in-person conversations about it. It can be daunting. It can be exhausting. But at the same time, if there's someone you need to meet, you should meet them. You should spend time with them. Um, and I know that, I've been going to industry conferences now since 2001, 2002. I mean, there's always like, it's this industry or this organization or what have you. And, my wife says, well, what you're just going someplace, right? I'm like, yes and no. It is work, right?
Hmm.
But it's
Hmm.
also there's a context of like meeting new people, going someplace, if it's Vegas or Nashville or overseas, it's fun. But there is that element of I'm spending time with people I need to spend time with.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
again, post COVID, I haven't worked in an office now for almost 20 years. And
Wow.
so
Oh,
I
so you've been
only
remote this whole
I've
time?
been remote since 2005.
Wow.
No, I would, I go into like
Sure.
when I worked at past companies, I was at the office 3 or 4 times a year easily.
Hmm.
Iron Mountain as a company it's very remote. We don't have, we used to have a huge home office in Boston, Mass. We sold that building during COVID. We have a smaller building now. We are
Okay.
spread out globally.
Yeah.
So most of my interaction with people is like this.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have 77 meetings today and
Yeah.
talk to the same people, and they're in their bedroom or their office. I'm in mine, uh,
Yeah.
and that works really well. But 3 weeks ago, I was in DC. We had a big kickoff meeting, and like, hey, I met everyone there for the first time in person
Oh, wow.
because we brought people in from all over the world. And that is so important, not just like
Yes.
outside your company, but inside your company. Bring people together. And
Yes.
obviously, the majority of BrokerBin members, they're in an office, they've got 20 guys there, they see each other a day, and maybe they don't want to see those people. But I look forward to that from in my own company, but also going to an event. Like there's probably 4 or 5 people for sure that I've never, actually more than that I've never met before that are going to be in Split. Hey,
Oh,
we'll spend
wow.
some time with you. And people I had to find for a particular need. And then, like, okay, now we've done a couple deals. Now we're going to talk about other deals and just reinforce those relationships.
No,
It's
that's
totally different.
great. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's obviously exactly what we aim to provide with the
Right.
events.
I
Um,
think I think the hard part for a lot of people is like understanding the value of that.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I'm only going to see the people I know. Then meet new people.
yeah.
That's the point. You know, it's you can talk to the person you know at the bar. Or you
Right.
could say, "Hey, we're gonna meet up afterwards. We're gonna go." Like somebody says, "Hey, I want to go to Zagreb." Okay, maybe. I mean, I haven't figured out my travel yet. I know I'm going to be in the neighborhood,
Yeah,
and but that's like a let's hang and we'll talk versus I need
sure.
to meet these people. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
but there's always opportunities for both. So,
Yeah. And so speaking of that, and this is kind of exactly what you're saying, but what are your tips for people to get the most out of it, to be intentional about their meetings, is what I hear you saying.
oh, definitely be intentional about their meetings. If there's but also be intentional about your meetings. If someone says, "Hey, I want to meet with you," and you look and see that they only sell pencils and you're not in
Yeah.
the pencil business, don't waste your
Yeah.
time. Be
Yeah.
be a little bit discriminatory, right?
Yeah.
But it's also to say, "Hey, I know you. Let's meet at this time. Maybe not at a table, but let's grab
Hmm.
breakfast. Let's grab lunch. Let's sit together here." And once you fill out those slots, you're not done. There's still a lot of work left to do. And if it was in, you know, like use Las Vegas as an example, we're gonna play cards later. Let's talk. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's a great use of your time as well because it's a little bit less structured and what I like, especially in those environments, is you're getting people from different companies that all know each other, and we're not talking shop per se, but we are, which makes it
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that really lends itself to what was going to be my final question. I think you've really answered this, but like, how important is the face-to-face in the B2B resale market? You've just basically answered that. It's critical.
it's critical. I mean, the best clients we have, we should think of as more than clients.
Yes.
We should have a like, how's your wife? How the kids?
Yeah.
What happens
Right.
then? And those relationships, I mean, they can be seen as superficial by some people because you have
Hmm.
to keep working at it. But if this is someone you value, you should
Hmm.
be concerned about them. And seeing someone face to face,
Yeah.
getting a chance to meet them, like especially for some of our clients and customers that are overseas that are coming to this event for the first time,
Hmm.
uh, this is it. I mean, unless I'm going to fly to Romania, which I'm probably not, I'm going to meet somebody in Split that will be from Romania, for example. So you
Yeah.
got to take advantage of that, I think, because we're all looking for the best possible markets and the best possible customers.
Hmm.
And doing that face to face is an easy way to decide, yeah, I'm not really interested, or yeah, this is good. I'm glad we met.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And even beyond that, I think in today's environment, there's so many different things happening. There's so many um, global impact, so many things that are impacting our industry right now.
Mhm.
And I think one of the benefits is to just be talking to peers about how they're handling things.
Right,
Even if it's not like, hey, we're not going to actually transact business, but I'm going to learn something from having a conversation with
right.
you, how you're handling a situation or whatever.
Yeah, I think right now, I mean, international trade is kind of in flux. Everybody knows it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to do as much business as we can everywhere. But
Yeah.
in the case, if there was an issue or a situation where I couldn't do business with someone
Hmm.
directly, but
Hmm.
I could put two people together,
Yes.
I'm taking away from the conference. Oh, this guy does this. I really should have him talk to our people in Spain,
Yeah.
or this guy's in Singapore, but we're not going to do direct business, but I could put him in contact with someone who could.
Yeah.
It's having that that Rolodex, either
Yeah,
mental
exactly.
Rolodex now, but like you should
Yeah.
talk to this person.
Yeah.
Um, and we go to these conferences to find people like that. Do you know someone who knows someone?
Yeah.
That's almost as important for us because we're still trying to connect the dots, and
Yep.
we're We're now operating, I think, directly in something like 30 countries. We're
Mm-hmm.
working with partners in another 25 or 30. So we're spread out, but we still want to know, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, do you know about this deal or have you seen this? And it's just good to get that face-to-face time to do that.
Oh, for sure. I liken it to our oldest is 24 and she's currently um, looking for a job more in her field. And it's really coming down to like who you know or
Like,
who you or who knows who you know or whatever I'm trying
yeah,
to say. Like I
yeah,
have a conversation with you and you say, "Oh, I know somebody in that
right.
industry. Let me
And
make
and
that connection." It's like
and
looking for a job. You
it
need
is
that
like looking
network.
for a job, and it's a really great example because sometimes the soft introduction, the warm introduction, is what you need to get over that next step, right?
Exactly.
Again, my daughter's already graduated, did fantastic,
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic at KU, graduated with like 1B in her
Oh
college
my,
career,
wow.
scholarships, awards, whatever, and
Fantastic.
we've been working for several months on the idea that you may not get a job based on merit alone.
I know that's so hard.
It's very hard. And like, and everyone has to come to the realization. And I look back on my career and I'm like, how did I get the jobs I got?
Yeah.
I knew people.
Yep.
The first job, a guy said, "Hey, we got a position. Do you want to?" And I knew him. I worked there for a few years, and I worked for him again. I mentioned Joe Turco. I mean, Joe was a vendor of mine at another company. I called up him. Um, when I moved over to Atlantics Global, it was because they were one of my largest customers, and I was looking for a change. So I asked them for a job, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very rarely, in fact, I think only one job in my entire career was I answered an ad.
Yeah.
So you never discount the power of the relationship.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And that's one thing that we've been saying to Rachel is you'll learn how to do this. And then even if you get to a point in your career where you're not necessarily looking for another job, you're going to be looking for a resource or
Exactly.
like in our end, you know, what I mean, like you need to learn. It's a skill set to be able to make
Yes.
those connections
Yeah.
and develop a network. And yeah, it's
And it
important.
takes time to hone that skill set.
Yeah, it sure does. Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time
Sure.
this morning. We really, really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. This has been a lot of
So,
fun.
so great to hear from you. How can members connect with you or other listeners learn more about Iron Mountain?
Go to our website, ironmountain.com. You can find out about everything we do. Like I said, we've got a lot of crazy divisions that most people wouldn't assume we have.
Yeah, I
We
learned
actually
all that today too.
we
I didn't
actually
know
do
that.
have a mountain. It's outside Pittsburgh where we store things inside the mountain.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
but yeah, our company history is great. It's very interesting, and I'm proud to be part of it. We're definitely a major player now in that space, in our own space, but also in the ITAD space.
Yeah.
But we're also not. There's a good core group of people that work here that do what I do, and it's not as if we're some monolithic entity. We're people. So, but yeah, look at ironmountain.com. My email address is david.manning@ironmountain.com. Reach out if anybody has a question. I'm
Great.
on
And
BrokerBin. You can find me there. So,
yep,
and
and your
I'll be in
LinkedIn.
Split. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you
on LinkedIn. Sure.
LinkedIn. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Yep. And your profile's up. Well, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you in Croatia.
Yeah, in like what, 2 months?
Yes, it's coming
Can't believe it.
fast.
I got to get my airfare booked. I got to figure out
Yeah.
where I'm
Yes.
coming from and where I'm going to.
Yep. And your hotel. Book your hotel.
Hotel's booked. I got that taken
Okay.
care
Okay.
of. Yep.
Okay, great. All right.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you
Renee.
so much.
We'll see you in a while. Yep.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Thanks again to Dave Manning from Iron Mountain for joining the podcast. TradeIQ is a production of BrokerBin, the leading B2B exchange for IT professionals, resellers, and wholesalers. Subscribe to TradeIQ for new episodes as we share the economic stories of IT hardware resale from industry leaders who work tirelessly to expand asset life cycles and eliminate e-waste. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on TradeIQ from BrokerBin.com.